You're listening to LA40 with Katerina Cozias, only on LA Talk Radio.
All right, good morning, LA. You are back watching LA40. I'm your host, Katerina Cozias, and I am so pumped for today's episode because for those of you on visual, you can see why. If you're on audio, I'm sorry for you because I have a stunning lady sitting right next to me. My guest for today, Miss Michelle Sorro.
Hey, I'm so happy to be here. Wow, what an intro. Thank you.
Yes.
Ditto.
Yeah, right? How exciting for us. So first of all, we're going to apologize for all you people that are dealing with early winter because it's 82 degrees in Los Angeles this morning.
It's so confusing. How do we dress for this? Layers.
Yeah, layers. And I see you've got the layers on.
I was like, but it is still jeans and booties, let's be clear. Like that's my 24/7, 365.
There you go. and that's what we do, right? Is that's our version of fall in LA is like so jeans and little booties, which also help with the
and tanks.
There you go. There you go. For those of you that don't know, Michelle Sorro is going to be killing it on the show with us today because we are going into Mindset Mashup. What that means is, as a host with Extra, she works with people like Mario Lopez, interviews celebrities all over Los Angeles, Hollywood. And you have now started your own project based on a lot of your moving into a mindset of success, a mindset of fulfillment, a mindset of, mashing up the old mindset to bring it into the new. So talk to me a little bit about your new podcast, which is rising up the ranks.
It is. It's so exciting. Yeah. And what's amazing is that my old mindset, I always say like before 2018, I went to this amazing personal development program called Date with Destiny. And it was utterly life-changing.
Mr. Tony Robbins.
That's right. I mean, so for me...
What year was that?
It was just in December of 2017.
Okay. Okay. So recently.
And that program is the one that's featured on the documentary on Netflix called I'm Not Your Guru. So if you've seen that and you've been interested, I highly recommend it, especially if you're like me. I listened to his programs. I was aware of him my whole life.
Right.
But I had never gone to a live event.
Okay, yeah.
And it was there that I get the chills even talking about it, where I basically decided to claim my destiny. And that's unpacking values and rules and old limiting beliefs and then putting it all back together for what really, truly resonates and aligns with my mind and heart.
So what is that? For you?
That's a good question. So at that event, I got very clear that I was here to make a different kind of an impact than I had been making. I didn't believe that there's such a thing as age, and that's why I love your show. It's like your 40s are designed to truly let go of what others are thinking, break through that blind spot, because for a lot of us, it's unconscious, right? We're so consumed with what would they think, or what if I suck, what if I fail, because when's the last time we tried something new?
Well, and we're told as adults that if you try something new and you fail, that's bad.
Right.
But you can't try something new and not fail.
So true.
You have to fail through it to succeed.
Right. There's the 4 phases of learning, which would be a topic for another time. But bottom line is that when I let go of what others might think and I decided to bust through the fear of what if I suck, what if I fail, and just remember all the times that I tried anything. And it's like, okay, yes, it just requires action, one step out of the comfort zone, one little step. So that's a takeaway right now. It's like whatever you think you're being pulled to do, whatever the even the little itty bitty seed of a dream is, go forward to it, because it will pull you the right resources, connections, opportunities,
just
everything.
Show up.
Exactly. Yes. You and I were just chatting before we started.
They do.
And so that's magic. So the idea came to start a podcast.
Okay.
And it's because I knew that I wanted to really master my emotions.
Okay.
Right? Because if we don't master the emotions, we're basically screwed.
Well, you know what? You're there's a pendulum, and if you allow yourself to be swung by it rather than rise above it, watch it swinging, and then you decide which side of the pendulum you want to be on.
Totally.
That's what I'm working on these days.
100%, and aren't we are? And it's an ever-evolving process. And anyone who says, I've arrived, I've got it all figured out, this is how you do it. The next piece is stay humble, right? I love the 3 words, I don't know. I don't know, and I'm humble enough to just be willing to say I don't know, but I'm so willing to learn and grow, so I can give it back to others.
And what I love is you are the exact example of what I talk about. So my theory is this. Chapter 1 is anything happening between 0 and 39 years old. Chapter 1. You're learning, you're failing, you're growing, you're crying, you're loving, but it's R&D. It's research and development on your own life.
I love that.
And society has convinced us that 40 to 80, we have to start declining.
Ooh.
Give up on our dreams, get older, get fatter, and I'm thinking, but that doesn't make sense because we've done all this R&D. So now between 40 and 80 or beyond is when we can actually step in and kill it. And that's exactly what you're doing.
Yes.
Right?
I've never been more lit
So
up and
good.
fired up, mid-40s and just getting started.
And look how great she is, right? Like, we are not ready to slow down.
Well, but that's mindset. No, not at all. First of all, I love Reverend Michael Beckwith, who is the founder of Agape Spiritual Center right here in LA. He was my mentor for 18 years.
He endorsed my book.
Oh,
Excellent. He's
I didn't even know we had that in common.
Yes.
See, there's
He's
so
so
much
great.
kismet going on in this conversation already because you and I just really met.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but yeah,
I
keep
love
going. Agape
Reverend
is great.
Michael.
Agape's great.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said you got goosebumps, but you're saying
but
Agape's
both.
great. Same difference. You talk as fast as I do. This is so awesome. I feel at home. But for those listening, you're like, slow it down. This
girls.
is normal. But Reverend Michael used to say that if you're looking for the golden elixir, like the youth elixir, because that's so LA, he's like, try on some joy. Joy, when you're radiating happiness and joy and gratitude and fulfillment, all those things that you mentioned earlier, there is no such thing as age. But it's like, how do we get to that? Well, you've got to really start to manage your thoughts. So going back to the Inspired podcast and then a whole business model around how I could scale this breakthrough into a genuine business around the world to help thousands and thousands of people have a safe container to really grow and expand and blast off like a rocket ship, from the breakthroughs. And so now I'm doing that. I'm leading many masterminds.
Because I was going to say, I noticed that you are leading your own mastermind,
Yes.
which is excellent.
And of course, I have my own business coach.
Okay,
He lives in Sydney, Australia. We had a 3-hour session yesterday, and I can't wait to share with you what he shared with me because we're about to blast off on something really, really exciting and big, and we're going to collaborate finally. I've been waiting for him to come back to me. Yeah. And he was like, so I want you to put like 5 things down on a piece of paper, send it to me, and then I want you to let it go and don't even think about it for 2 months, and all the right people and resources are going to start to come.
Now, are these 5 things that you want to have happen in your life, you want to experience?
Well, they're going to happen.
Right.
So it's
I love that
right?
so much.
So
they are going to happen.
Language is everything.
They are
right?
gonna
So we don't
happen.
try to do anything. We're very clear it's happening, but then we let go of the how, because the how will mess all of us up every single time. No one knows how to do anything in the beginning. You just start.
You know what it is? Okay, so this is ingenious because I'm working on this right now. Not working on this. I am doing this.
Yes.
Now. What with our limited human mind?
Yes.
We genuinely see 4%. Let's say like a computer screen, right? So this is what we have access to, and we see what's going on in here. And if we try to figure out the how, we are ignoring 96% of everything that's happening out here. And so if we can release the how, we allow that 96% of whatever's happening out there to come into that screen. But if we're focused on only the 4% of what we can visually see, we're really, really cutting ourselves off from the possibility.
So beautiful.
So I love that you wrote it and let it go. And you
yes.
you know that it's coming.
He literally, I mean, this is a guy who's worth several $100 million. I mean, he scales big businesses in marketing and tech and cryptocurrency, blockchain, you name it. And so he's completely retired at 40 years old. And he, by the way, was a crew member serving silently and beautifully at a Tony Robbins event called Business Mastery over
Humbly
the summer.
serving as a
Humbly
volunteer.
serving.
Wow.
And no one would ever know. I get the chills that he is who he is in Sydney and around the world because he doesn't need to lead with that. And so he's all about the intangibles, the invisible, the unknown, and how we're all interconnected. And to really pause and take a moment of, what does this mean, or what could this mean? But so his whole thing of letting it go is just stay in tune with the outcome and the emotions attached to the outcome that you think that goal will represent. Because when we're living from that space, then we're somehow connected and in flow and not blocking or resisting all the gifts and the blessings along the way that could catapult and expedite all of the right resources and connections to make that dream happen. Does that make sense?
Yes, it absolutely does. And I love that you are working with a coach, and I love that you recognize that it's up to us to continue to develop ourselves.
Totally.
It was Oprah Winfrey was being interviewed, actually was interviewing Lisa Nichols. This is back in the day when The Secret came out. And Lisa Nichols is on her program, and Oprah asks Lisa, how many coaches do you have? And Lisa says, I have 2. Yeah. At commercial break, Lisa asks Oprah, how many coaches do you have? Oprah says, I have 4. Lisa Nichols says she got out of that interview, walked to the parking lot to her car, and called 2 more coaches. And she said, if Oprah Winfrey has 4, I am certainly getting 4. So I love that you have a coach, a mentor, 2. And now you are also becoming a mentor to others.
I didn't know that Oprah had 4. I have a personal.
I think one of them is a fitness coach, probably.
Okay, and then I have a business coach, but now I need to go get myself 4 because I need a health coach. I want to level up my health even more. I mean, I've already quit everything. I'm like, damn, I don't get anything left except a little bit of Starbucks here and there. But going back to the podcast and then knowing that I really wanted to get on stage and really lead people and help to make a really meaningful, measured impact. One of the things was I got to start a podcast because I knew that if I wanted emotional mastery, if I wanted to get after all these outcomes, if I don't start to work with my mindset, which is what I'm inspired by people like Oprah, Tony Robbins, Lisa Nichols, Rock Thomas, all these people that we share in common, then I had no shot. So mindset for me, I knew was going to be the linchpin. It was going to be everything. There's a reason why it's a top hashtag. Mindset matters. Mindset is everything, right? So I was like, okay, well then it's not just mine. How about if I didn't know how. What if I could get the most amazing mindset experts on my podcast to talk about everything from health, wealth, biohacking, whatever it might be. Money mindset is huge. Sure. I wanted to get those snapshots and then begin to have a compilation and an index for the only mashup podcast that exists in the marketplace around specifically mindset.
But you know what I love is you didn't block yourself off from saying, how am I going to get these guests? You just said, I am going to get these guests. Yes. And guess what? You are getting them.
Oh my God, you guys. I just got Tony Robbins to confirm that he will be on my podcast. And then I've got a bunch of A-list celebrities and top entrepreneurs and top speakers and experts in their space. Tony says yes to 3 podcasts a year.
Tony Robbins. Woo! I mean, you can't get much higher than that. You can't get higher than that.
He was my number one holy grail. By the way, I'll get Oprah next year. You watch. I said it here, and I will come full circle after that happens. Here's the thing. I don't have resistance in my brain about asking. And I already envisioned the yes for them because people want to say yes. And they especially want to say yes to someone who's getting after it and just trying to add value and serve humanity. I don't make $1 off that podcast, let's be clear. But being a businesswoman, I know that podcast leverages me for all kinds of other opportunities.
And that's what it is how creative can you get? And again, removing those personal blocks of, but that might be too much. Well, maybe that's too much. Well, maybe why can't you do it all? Or at least, right?
Yeah, and then decide and define what does that mean.
Yeah, what's your lane and or how many lanes do you want to play in actually? Because the what's your lane thing is also limiting.
Right. Yeah. And I love that. And so for me, it was even when I launched it, which didn't end up getting launched until June 11th, and I launched 4 episodes at once. And I remember doing a Facebook Live after I had launched, and I was scared. The old limiting beliefs came in and said,
is anyone going to like it?
You suck. Right? You're not Oprah. Who do you think you are? Oh my gosh, you can't do that. You're just supposed to talk about red carpet stuff.
Try coming to Hollywood at 40, right?
Well, girlfriend, I got my first full-time television hosting gig. Yeah. I was on air in my 40th year.
Wow.
Anything is possible. Yeah. Anything. Yeah. And now I'm on Extra for a couple years now, which was a dream come true. So but again, mindset is key. So I wanted to go back to that. If someone were to ask me, how do you really maximize fulfillment, success, true happiness in your life in your 40s and up, I'd say you got to work on 3 things.
Okay. What are those?
Mindset, tribe, and R&R, which are not rest and relaxation. It's rituals and routines. Ooh, if you're looking at those R&R. 3 pillars, you got everything, right? Because you are not who you say you are. You are what you do. Look at your calendar. Look at the DVR. Look at what you're addicted to, social media, various screens, right? The conversations that you're having. So whatever you're doing on a daily, that is actually going to be your life. You reverse engineer that, and you're like, how did I feed my mind today? What are my rituals? Do I complain? Do I gossip? Do I criticize? Or do I lift up and level up and want to make an impact and look for opportunities to do that every day?
And every day is something that I want to invite you watching to listen to what Michelle is saying, because I heard a stat the other day that blew my mind. Americans are scrolling online for 27 hours a week on average. 27 hours a week. That's almost a job. It probably is. My question is, how many of these people are coming online for their own lives? Right? Like, turn off Facebook, turn off whatever the heck you're watching, and actually start to put rituals in place, right? What was the other R?
Rituals and routines.
And routines, right. So what are some of your rituals and routines?
Well, that's a good question. So this is what I've been learning. So all these experts on my podcast, and now I think we have released 22 episodes, and each one of them have these badass rituals. And by the way, I ask each guest, and you'll come on, how do you define fulfillment? Because that's the reason for the podcast. Is I was sitting there at Date with Destiny, tears streaming down my face, and I've literally fallen to the floor because I'm so blindsided by these old blueprints that I didn't even know were running me subconsciously.
They're all under there.
Right? And I was like so willing to break free because I was super radically honest. But when I realized what I was feeling was this thing that felt unfamiliar, which is like total fulfillment in my soul. Wow. Because my mind and my heart were aligned. And I had no resistance because in that space it felt safe. And I was like, how do I take this back to LA?
Yeah. How do
I now
I leave here,
go do this and truly serve
Is
humanity?
that where the idea of the podcast came from?
100%.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was the most clear. So now, by the way, I'm going back to that event in December to crew. To serve.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm the
love
humble
that.
servant. Yeah. And by the way, I had to break through massive approvals because I had never crewed another event for Tony Robbins. And that's like the holy grail, the most intense. Wow. And I was like, no, you have to understand, like, I have to serve here because this is the program that gave me my life. By the way, if you want to go, I need to figure out how to hook you up.
Oh my God, I would love to go.
So
I would
good.
love to go. You know what I love about people like Tony Robbins, and I can feel it emanating from you. I don't know if you can feel it through the screen, but I can feel it. It's just hitting me. People that lead, that really have been impactful leaders, are actually servant leaders.
Yes.
They're servant leaders. They are serving first,
That's
and that
right.
is why they're leading.
How do I get out of my own way?
And I feel that coming from you.
I appreciate
really
that
do.
because that's the whole podcast, right? So now it's been out for almost 4 months. We did hit a top 10 in self-help, which is crazy. And I don't, like I said, I'm not monetizing off that. That is my gift to the world. And it's because I follow people like Tony Robbins, Lewis Howes, Gary Vaynerchuk that say, listen, if you're trying to do those things and really want to make an impact and it's really about the money, you're never going to grow it. And then I'll tell you something that my business coach, Gary has told me, and he's like, Michelle, the only way, this is why rituals and routines come in place, and I'll share some examples of that in a moment. Yeah. The only way, and he just shared this at a $10,000 marquee event called Business Mastery of Tony's in Vegas. He only does it once a year. There were 62 countries represented, anyone from low six figures or even 5-figure businesses
into millionaires, multimillionaires,
billionaires in the room. And because I was kind of front row center, I had access to the top earners, which kind of blew me away, and I started to feel intimidated and second guessed myself a little bit, right? Because I was like,
I belong here, right?
Right, I've never made that kind of money,
yeah.
right? I know I've been successful, and I'm really grateful for my opportunities, and I'm grateful that I have been willing to serve the ideas that have come through and move forward, because that's a big piece, taking action, even when you don't think you're ready, especially when you think you're not ready. That's when you take action. Yeah. You don't need to know the how, just go with the what and the why, always. But anyway, but Gary had said to me, the best piece of business advice, which is why I always say business mastery, was a spiritual experience for me. And this was just 2 months ago. And by the way, my business has grown 400% since business mastery. And let me explain why. He said to me, like on day 4, he said, Michelle, when you get stressed, remember, he's quietly watching. This is a man who's worth several $100 million, and he's been around this world for 10 years. So he's been around the most successful top 100 CEOs,
internationally,
entertainers, celebrities, athletes, you name it. He served them in these rooms. Wow. And he said to me, when you're stressed, or when you can't come from your heart, which is where your pure magic is, you're never going to scale this business, and you're never, ever going to create the outcome that you desire. When you're spacious in your heart, and when you come from pure femininity, which is your true power, you will do anything that you can imagine, and then some. And I took that to heart, because I was like, there are so many people on the stages, including the Tonys of the world, that are very masculine driven. And let me just tell you, when you go to a Tony event, you'll see it's very heart-centered, which is why I love it and why I resonate, is it is deeply spiritual. But then you get out of there and you're like, wow, bust through, burn the boats, make it happen. And it is very intense. But if you can't come back to your own rituals and routines where you prime your mind and align your heart with meditations, gratitude exercises, keeping spaciousness in your schedule. One of the things that I do, because you had asked earlier, that allows me to stay spacious and really optimize my heart and mind, is I schedule downtime. I schedule self-care, because if it's not on the calendar, it won't happen.
It
right?
won't happen.
You know, and especially as women, we can get so busy because we're really good at multitasking. So I now know, schedule 2 hours at the park with my puppy. Schedule 2 hours at the spa, which I did yesterday. I was at the Fairmont for 2 hours, and I was like, this is going to become part of my new ritual. I need to have, these types of events.
And you know what I've noticed, and I've noticed this with people that have been successful and people that aren't successful, I'm also noticing it. Your self-worth, the amount of love you give yourself is a direct reflection of your net worth.
Oh, girl. Yes.
So the fact that you are actually scheduling time for your downtime is exactly what is going to allow your mind to get the inspired thought so that you can make the inspired action, so that you can have the success that is actually out there in the quantum field as an opportunity 100%. For you.
This is why
I love that. We have to go to the spa together.
Oh, please.
I'm all about that.
Because here's what happens. And if we don't talk business at all, you're going to walk away from that 2 hour downtime that's really yummy, just deep girlfriend conversation. You'll be like, oh, the right person will just happen to call. Yeah. Or you'll get an idea of like, oh, well, maybe I'll just send them a quick email. Collaboration is key. If you look at all the people that we love and admire. You talked about
tribe, right?
Yes.
Tribe, the people you're around, the people you're with, the people you're interacting with, so important.
Okay, we've heard the phrase proximity is power how many times? And what does that really mean? Who you're surrounding yourself with, right? We've heard the Jim Rohn quote a million times and people never get him credit, but it is him. And he says that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I take it to the next level. It's like, where are you in that group of 5?
Right.
Because I would strategically but unconsciously position myself to always being at the top of my peer group. So they were always looking up to me. Right.
The way you could be growing.
And then I was always enough. Right. But where were people challenging me to level up? Where were people saying, okay, you're earning 6 figures, that's all good, but what about 7 figures? What about 8 figures, 9 figures, 10 figures?
And impact and purpose, and as you said, back to fulfillment.
Yes,
right? Real
total fulfillment. Yeah. And so I had someone on my podcast the other day. His name is Scott Harris. He lives in Sydney. He shares the stage with Tony for over 20 years now. He's a phenomenal coach, multi-millionaire, truly fulfilled with 4 young kids under 6 years old, happily married. I mean, he's just talk about mastering health and all of the inside job of what success really means, which is fulfillment.
Right.
Success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure, yet so many of us humans can relate to that.
Right.
And then you get in your 40s, you're like, okay, I have the house, I have the cars, I have the passports on my stamp, I have the money in the bank, but why am I so miserable and numbing out with too much alcohol or popping
or
pills?
Or my Xanax or whatever it is I need to go to bed with.
I do nothing. I don't drink. I do nothing. And I am so deeply fulfilled. I don't have to numb out. Why would I dim my light? Right.
See?
Yeah. So
why would you not want to be one of those people that walks down the street with a sparkle in their eyes?
Yes, that's what's contagious. People feel that.
Yes.
Quantum physics.
And it's a lot more fun to live in that space.
Yes. And then, by the way, you will find that is a very non-crowded space, and those people really love helping one another. Why? Because we have generous energy, generous hearts. Yeah. But so Scott Harris had said to me something that was so good. I wrote it down and I made him say it like 3 times. And Oprah would say, tweet, 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 tweet. That's a tweet, tweet. And he said, your social currency is worth more than your financial currency. Right? Yeah,
wow.
So good.
Say that again.
Your social currency is worth more than your financial currency. Are you hanging around people, and are you one of them? And it's okay if you are, but just get mindful about it. Criticizing, trying to control, complaining, closing down instead of thinking bigger, being more generous-hearted, right? The gossiping, even about celebrities. In my world, being on extra,
I was going to say.
I was like, I don't even allow myself to do that. If there's a certain guest on, or if I come on to do my segment and some big A-lister just left, it's like, how can we hold the space for what am I here to do? How can I serve? I always, whenever I go onto the set of Extra, even including driving up to Universal Studios, through the guard gate and who's ever manning, getting my ID and allowing me through, I am here to serve. How can I serve and uplift the crew, the set, my co-host, the viewership, everyone?
Right.
And when you come from that place, guess what's going to happen? You end up getting all your needs met in ways that you can't even possibly begin to fathom.
And good things just happen to you because you are emitting the goodness.
Yes. And the other thing, too, it's like people love to complain about top coaches like a Tony Robbins. Here's what's missing. Here's what they don't do. Here's where I'm better. And it's like, how about have that whole conversation, but without bringing them into it?
Right.
Yeah, right? How about just being like, I've been in the personal development space for 3 decades, and I love it. I'm obsessed with it. I'm a growth mindset junkie. And here's where I know I want to take it to the next level.
And I think I can offer something unique to complement all of this great stuff that's out there
versus
right now.
tearing others down, right? Because we can all look at any badass out there, but by the way, they've been doing it for 30, 40 years,
Right.
the Oprahs, the Tonys, the Lisa Nichols, busting their booties. How about giving them some respect
Some
and bowing
credit,
down to them,
yes.
saluting them, because they are truly making an impact that's heart-centered and serviceful, you know, and then going into your space of like, ooh, what if I took this, this, and that, and I tweaked it, and I put myself out there, right? Try that on.
I have a great book recommendation because we've got to wrap up here really quick. I don't know if you've read it. If you haven't, I have it. I can give it to you. It's called Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield. If you haven't read Turning Pro, what it talks about is how do you take everything you've done and step into owning who you are now committed to becoming.
Girl, I want that
And
book.
how do you unravel the thought process of what are the neighbors going to think?
Right.
It's excellent. I'm going to give it to you. All right.
I
at the
find
spa.
that is a thing that I can't wait for that day. It's going to be fun. I can't. I'm just shocked, and yet not, because I relate to even just 10 months ago, and I can't relate to that woman who sat there crying thinking, but I can't do that because what will people think? I can't be that honest, that transparent, that vulnerable. And by the way, I don't make it where it's manic and desperate in social media, for example, but truth and transparency and a little vulnerability, like through some beautiful just sharing and inviting others in, that's the new currency. If you're trying to figure out how to market your programs, your message, your whatever you've got that you want to utilize and monetize off of the quote, my mother would say, the Facebook, or the Instagram, which I love her, then really just start to add value, right? Because that's really where it is.
And I want to touch on something you talked about a little bit earlier with the feminine and masculine energy, because I want to remind people out there, it has nothing to do with your gender. It has to do with the energetic space you're coming from. And for a lot of us, especially our generation as women, we were told, you can be a CEO, you can be a prime minister, president, but you've got to do it from this masculine energy of strive and drive and grind and you see people that are successful, like a Tony Robbins, who actually has a tapping into his feminine side, which has nothing to do with femininity, but it has to do with a respect for emotion, a respect for vulnerability, a respect for intuition.
And grace.
Right?
Which might, that could be a euphemistic term for intuition, because some people, it depends on whatever your religion is, and I honor all. So grace, God, universal love, grand intelligence, intuition. But when we allow that to guide us and stop blocking and resisting and we just flow, that's where it all happens. Is it okay if I share about a mastermind? I'm not going to go into it. But
that's
okay,
fine.
great. Because I'm very excited. So
Is
Tony
this your mastermind?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Tony Robbins' top coach. His name is Michael Nitti. He doesn't market himself. He's never needed to. He's got top celebrities and athletes, like gold-winning, Olympian athletes, etc. Top entrepreneurs, etc. From stay-at-home moms. We do a mastermind together.
Oh, wow.
And I'm very honored. He's my personal coach. And we just started this, and we have enrollment that's open now. It's called the Mastery Mastermind. You can enroll. It's ridiculously affordable. You can drop the nugget of, like, my coach is Tony Robbins' top coach. Tony refers him people on the daily.
Wow.
And he's so good. He's so committed to you being in this state at all times. He's in his mid-60s. He's been doing it for over 30 years.
What was his name again?
Michael Nitti, Nitti. But if you go to Michelle-Sorro.com and you're interested, you can just hit me up there and we'll get you enrolled and secure your spot. But
how does it work? Do you meet online? Do you meet once a week, twice a month?
So we have people from all over the world. We meet every other week for 90 minutes on a Monday night.
Wow.
And we have a safe container where he truly coaches us. And then there's hot seat opportunities. I mean, it's ridiculously powerful. You get the support, the encouragement, and the challenges. And then there's these little pod groups that hold you accountable to whatever the outcomes are that you said you wanted to do and to crush in 90 days.
Because accountability is key, right?
It's everything.
How many times are we going to say we're going to do something and then we turn around and go back to sleep? Right?
That's the tribe. And so if you have a home pod, that's what we call them, that holds you accountable, 4 to 6 people that on a weekly basis or a daily basis, however you set that up.
Connecting, touching base.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some people want that and others that don't. You have to look at why, right? That's that whole ecosystem of the mindset, tribe, and your R&R, your rituals and routines that will hold you accountable to that, which you say you want. So don't let the 40s go by. I mean, by biohacking, the Dave Asprey's of the world, who's on my podcast next month, by the way,
wow.
he's saying that when we're in our 40s, we're in our second quadrant of life. Hello?
Right.
This is not the decline. We're on the ascendant of the mountain. So let's get after it together. Let's make magic
on
together,
that,
girl.
right? No,
Yes.
I love that so much. Michelle, you are a force. I am so excited
so
to be
grateful.
just be in your presence.
Likewise.
Thank you for sharing all of this great information, because I know, if nothing else, what we're trying to do is just introduce conversation that is going to start getting people excited, because I really believe, and I can feel that you believe it too, life is supposed to be good, fun, easy, enjoy, and we've just been sold this paradigm that it's supposed to be hard and a struggle and grinding, and it doesn't have to be that way. It's a choice.
You just got to chip away
at
all the
all of
limiting
that
beliefs
underneath.
and BS, right? And then uncover who we really are, which is always tuned in and tapped into grace, to love, to magic. That's the mindset magic. We just got to allow ourselves to reveal that part of who we really are. Life is so easy from that space. We just got to get out of our own way.
Michelle Sorro, her name is above, michelle-sorro.com for the mindset information, and Mindset Mashup on iTunes. Where do we find you?
iTunes, Apple,
Spotify, all
whatever.
those different. There's like 25 platforms now. I'm sure your team has that sorted.
They do. Yes, basically all platforms except Spotify, but we'll figure that out.
Parting words. One last piece of advice for anyone watching.
So I would define fulfillment, since I ask every guest on my podcast, and I was just thinking about it yesterday. I was going to bed with this and I loved it, and I was like, what is fulfillment for me? And it was like, when I'm in the flow. And so when I start to recognize that there's any blockages or resistance or anything that's like having me not be in flow, start to question that and release that so I can be back in flow as quickly as possible. Because they say when you start with like a bad thought, or like the whole day just kind of goes downhill. No, stop that. Right. Open yourself up to flow and put yourself in that position of power yet again, and you can do it as fast as you snap your fingers if you're mindful enough.
And it all comes from in here. Again, we've heard that cliche, it's got to do with this and not this. So bring it back to here. Bring it back to Michelle. Bring it back to LA40 with Katerina Cozias. and definitely stay tuned with us. Also, I'm guessing, if you're not following Michelle on social media, Facebook, Instagram, all of those platforms,
please,
Michelle
yes,
Sorro.
I'd love to say hi. I'm very accessible,
Yes.
Michelle Sorro. Yes, it's the fancy thing on Extra, but really the impact that I am making is through that podcast, through my masterminds, and we're just getting started. There's so many exciting things that are happening.
Awesome. Well, you are happening with us here at LA Talk Radio. Thank you for happening with us here on LA40.
you.
And I look so forward to
Me too.
doing more.
Our spa date.
All right. Thank you all. We'll see you next week. Ciao, ciao.
You're listening to LA40 with Katerina Cozias, only on LA Talk Radio.